Okay, everyone, and welcome back to Polkadot Insider AMA. And we have the audience here, we have the speaker here, so I guess that we are good to go. Okay, so it's another episode with Polkadot Insider as the team series. And today we're just so happy to have on the stage a very cool project, which is Tanssi, an Appchain infrastructure protocol that simplifies Appchain deployment, making it secure, efficient, and easy while they eliminate the lengthy and complex process of traditional blockchain implementation. Yeah, and that's cool already. But it's not just what Tanssi can do, a lot more. But if you want to find out, stay till the end with us. Yeah, and in case you don't know about Polkadot Insider, so we are a channel updating news, data analytics, real-time data, and research about projects to support retail investors' bills when they invest in the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. So going through the AMA with me today, it's a very, very cool guest too, is Mr. Francisco, the co-founder of Tanssi Network, who's gonna share with us about what is so amazing about Tanssi, what is Tanssi doing and serving, and also what are some upcoming things that we have to follow up with Tanssi. So let's start. So to kick off the atmosphere, sir, could you tell us something more about Tanssi in general, and also your background, how you became involved in Tanssi, and also Polkadot ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's nice to meet you, Anna. I'm Francisco Agosti. I'm the CEO of Moondance Labs, the development company responsible for building Tanssi. And as Anna mentioned, Tanssi is an Appchain infrastructure protocol, and we'll get into what that actually means throughout this AMA. But in terms of my background, I think the most relevant experience for that led to building Tanssi was that I spent almost 3 years working in ecosystem development and growth at PureStake, the company building Moonbeam. So throughout my time building Moonbeam, there were a lot of learnings, and from having built Moonbeam, that's really what that experience ultimately is what led us to realize that Tanssi was very much needed, not only within the Polkadot ecosystem, but in the broader Appchain space. That's kind of the story of how things started on Tanssi.
Well, that's really great to know more about your journey, with Tanssi, and we know that there are a lot of hard works there, but it's all worth it. And we really appreciate what you're doing so far, and definitely wait for more. So it's time for us to dig deeper into Tanssi. So talking about the competition, we know it's always hard. So what are the key points that make Tanssi Network really unique and stand out compared to other projects building the same thing in the ecosystem?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, the whole reason why we're building Tanssi is because, I think in the past couple of years, we've seen a very accelerated growth for Appchains, right? And this is not only within Polkadot. I think Cosmos and Polkadot were kind of the pioneers who started this narrative, right, of having application-specific chains. But what we find interesting is that in the last 2 years or so, there's been like a lot of competitors entering the space, right? There's pretty much every ecosystem in Web3 has like an Appchain infrastructure offering nowadays. There's Polygon supernets, there's Avalanche subnets, Binance offers sidechains, there's like application-specific rollups on ETH mainnet. So there really is like a bunch of offerings right now. So this for us is validation that the Appchain space and narrative is going to continue to grow in the years to come. But from having built Moonbeam, we realized that despite this growing demand, there are some like significant factors holding the Appchain space back from even more exponential growth, right? And from having built Moonbeam, we had like very clear motivations about why we needed to build a layer one. but throughout our experience, we realized that it really isn't like a trivial process to build an app chain, right, or a chain. There are a lot of like infrastructural responsibilities that fall on the team that wants to do so, right? So, I mean, one of the great things of building on a shared EVM environment like Moonbeam is that builders that deploy there, that you have access to a bunch of tools that are already available, right? That have already been deployed there, like block explorers, oracles, RPC endpoints, wallets, oracles. But when you decide to build your own chain, you need to you take on the responsibility for all those components, right? So you have to kind of bootstrap a validator set, launch the chain, maintain it, then you have to incorporate and integrate all of these developer tools that are necessary to run the chain. And all of that is like it's a heavy process in terms of kind of infrastructure overhead, right? It takes months to years to put all these things in place, and that's the case in Polkadot as it is in these other ecosystems. So we saw that there was really a need for a protocol that would kind of abstract away that infrastructural complexity associated with building app chains, so that it becomes kind of as easy as implementing a smart contract, right? And the goal is really to kind of make the app chain market a lot more accessible to developers that want to kind of benefit from those features and functionalities that an app chain provides, which is, a higher degree of customization, a better possibility of offering like a better user experience, having dedicated and sovereign block space and governance. So these are kind of the reasons that we're seeing developers wanting to build app chains. But yeah, that's the idea at a high level. Tanssi is providing services like block production, data availability, all these kind of developer tools out of the box, like wallets, RPC endpoints, oracles, XCM integrations. So the idea is to kind of provide all these necessary things on behalf of developers so that they can just focus on building their application itself, right? And what we're trying to do at Tanssi is really drastically reducing the time to market and effort required to build an app chain, so that, for example, instead of taking months to deploy a chain, the vision that we have in Tanssi is to be able to offer developers to launch a chain in like under an hour with everything they need. So that's kind of what we have in mind for this project.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, we all know that competition is hard, and there are always challenges to go through. Yeah, to grow, and a lot of responsibilities gotta take to really maintain the development of a project. But we can see that Tanssi is doing great job, and it's like
Yeah.
and yeah, challenges is like
And I mean,
yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, but you had also kind of asked about what are the kind of the key points that make Tanssi unique. I mean, what I described is the protocol itself, but I think the way we're bringing this to life is really enabled by the architecture that Polkadot is providing, right? So we've always been really big believers in the Polkadot architecture, since it has a lot of competitive advantages compared to other offerings in the space. One is the shared security model, obviously, the fact that you can kind of plug into this relay chain that offers a very high degree of security, the degree of interoperability, right? As there's more and more chains deploying in the future, how these chains communicate with each other becomes like extremely important, right? And Parity has done a lot of work around XCM and how interoperability will work. So all these app chains deploying to Tanssi will be able to benefit from XCM and the shared security that Polkadot has to offer. And then Substrate itself, right? Like Substrate is a framework that is highly flexible, highly modular. It allows for a great degree of customizability, which is one of the reasons that developers want to build app chains to begin with. And then I'm particularly excited about the release of pay-as-you-go parachains, right? Because that way Tanssi is going to be able to lower the barriers of entry even further into the app chain space, since developers won't have to kind of acquire a slot on Polkadot for 2 years. They can just kind of pay for blocks on demand. So a lot of these things I'm pretty excited about, and they're unique. They're uniquely offered by the design of Polkadot, right? And it's extremely difficult to replicate this design and architecture after you've kind of built out a project, right? I see a lot of projects like Cosmos and now Eigenlayer on ETH mainnet, trying to kind of replicate this shared security model, but it's not so easy to kind of incorporate these things after you've already worked on it. And Polkadot's been working on this for a very long time. So
yeah, it's obviously that Polkadot is a very good fit, a very good home for Tansy in terms of substrate as you mentioned and other benefits. Yeah, and we know that Tansy it's always like got a very quick adaptation to what's going on, know what users and builders need, and always give us a very good surprises. Yeah, we definitely wait a lot for all of that. Yeah, and that's why Tansy it's stands out and got a very important standing in users. Yeah, we definitely believe it. Yeah, so we know that developing a complete and successful project is very important, but how to create adoption for a project is also very essential. So how will Tansy Network attract users to use you guys' service?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, first of all, our target market aren't like end users; it's more developers, right? So Tansy itself, we're catering towards developers that want to build application-specific chains, who then will in turn attract like end users, right? They're going to be building end user-facing applications through Tansy. But yeah, I mean, that's a great question in terms of how to attract developers, right? It's a scarce kind of resource right now that everyone's competing for. I think what we've come to learn over time is that there's really no silver bullet when it comes to a go-to-market strategy or trying to attract developers. I think it's really combining and executing on many parallel threads effectively, right? I mean, it's a combination of things. First of all, I think it all starts with offering a great developer experience and product, right? That is extremely easy to use. Offering kind of the path of least resistance for developers. It all starts with that. The more complicated and more friction points you add, the less developers want to use it. So I think, and those principles have served us well when we built on Moonbeam. But I mean, one product alone and having superior technology, I think we all know that doesn't necessarily lead to success, right? So it's really being able to combine that with other aspects, right? Like developer relations, developer support, high quality documentation, being extremely responsive towards developers that are using your product and offering them top world-class support. On the marketing side, having an ambassador program that will foster kind of a healthy community of people that can promote the project on your behalf, and positioning, having hackathons, proper branding. On the BD side, having initiatives like a grants program to attract builders, a referral program. I think all of these things are really necessary to building something that will get traction, right? And the good thing is that our team has quite a lot of experience in that, and it really just comes down to execution on all these different fronts, which I'm confident that we can do it.
Yeah, of course, creating adoption is always a long-term fight for every project, but we definitely believe that Tansy is doing a great job about that. There's a lot of good strategies. And you say security is not all, but a lot of other aspects have to be guaranteed to give the developers a better experience. And we know Tansy is doing a great job. So definitely wait for more about this one. Yeah. So you're talking about plan already. So we kind of want to know more in detail. So in the upcoming time, can we expect any interesting features, interesting development from Tansy? Any good news you want to reveal for us?
Yeah, I mean, sure. We're constantly kind of scaling the team now. The team just closed the seed round, which was great. And really, the focus right now is shipping a testnet, right? I think that will be like a significant milestone for us to start engaging with developers and having something tangible to work with, and having some sort of a minimum viable product that we can interact with developers on, iterate the product based on actual feedback and not what we think is the best way to do it. We're aiming to launch a testnet in maybe August. That's kind of what we're targeting right now, July, August. And at that point, we're gonna be able to start working with a lot of the teams that are in the pipeline right now. And that's kind of from a product development perspective. But from a business development perspective, the priority right now is really to engage with as many development teams as possible, right? And try to get commitments from teams who will engage with us on testnet and who will deploy an app chain through Tanssi. So there's these kind of two parallel efforts going on right now. So yeah, I'm glad to say that we already have like several commitments from teams that are interested in using Tanssi, which is great. And after deploying the testnet, we're going to be aiming to launch, on Kusama by the end of the year. We're still considering that, and then Polkadot mainnet in Q1 of next year. So those are kind of the timelines that we're looking at. We're making quite a lot of progress, I think faster than many on the team expected, but yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. And in terms of features, I think, I kind of mentioned it before, right? Like there's a lot of things in development in the works in the Polkadot ecosystem. One of the ones that I'm arguably most excited by is the pay-as-you-go parachain model, because I think that's really going to be a game changer for the app chain space as a whole, and it's gonna significantly lower the barriers of entry for developers, right? Where you no longer need to participate in this auction and kind of reserve a slot for 2 years. I think that's a big ask for teams that are just starting out and they haven't even gotten product market fit. So I think that, pay-as-you-go parachains or parathreads, as you want to call them, they're really going to be able to allow developers to experiment and launch an app chain by minimizing the downside, right? So this is something that we're going to be incorporating on Tanssi right away, and we're going to be able to offer kind of this upgrade path from pay-as-you-go parachains to a full-blown parachain. And also like asynchronous backing is also in the works, which is going to have the block times for parachains and increase the block weight that's allowed. So that's going to upgrade the scalability within the Polkadot ecosystem, and other things like XCM v3, which should be shipping soon. So there's a lot of things that are happening that I'm excited by, and I think Tanssi will play a significant role in acting kind of as a catalyst to accelerate adoption within the Polkadot ecosystem.
Wow, that's huge and interesting already. Like a testnet is on the way, a lot of cool engagement and partnerships got away, and also the plan for being parachain, and oh my god, how amazing it is. Yeah, we know that a lot of works, have to be done to make all of them really come into play, but with Tanssi, we definitely believe that a lot of good news coming up. And we definitely follow up. Just like a promise from you guys for all of us. So the next question is I think it's kind of interesting. So as a CEO, I think a good vision is a must-have, and we kind of want to know your perspective in the current app chain market on Polkadot and outside Polkadot. How do you think it is right now, and also maybe even next few years? How it's going to change?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great question. It's obviously a loaded question, and it's difficult to pinpoint exactly where things will be in a couple of years. But yeah, I think we have like more or less a thesis for what's going to happen, right? I think undoubtedly, the app chain space has gotten a lot of traction in the past years, and I think that's going to continue to grow in the years to come. There has been like consolidation happening in the market right now, but I think in general, I kind of see the space heading more. I find a lot of analogies within like the Web 2 world, right? Where back in the day in Web 2, if you wanted to run an application, you had to run like all the infrastructure yourself. You maybe needed to have like bare metal servers, like all these things were being run in-house. And then kind of eventually AWS and other cloud solutions came along, and it just made things a lot more efficient for developers to run their applications, right? So I see kind of the same transition happening in Web3 right now, where developers want to have their own app chains because they want to have a controlled environment and dedicated space to work in, but it's very like infrastructure intensive to run a chain right now, right? So this is what excites me about Tanssi, is that it's kind of I think it's going to lead this transition into a more cloud-like experience where, and this is what I like about the Polkadot architecture, right? That it can enable this cloud-like experience where teams can leverage the shared resources of validation on the relay chain, the shared resources that Tanssi will offer through like block production, data availability, or retrievability, to really just abstract away a lot of those resources required for developers. So I think we're going to see a bigger transition into that. And Yeah, in general, I see a lot of trade-offs that are available right now in the market, right? So developers are, in terms of competition, you're going to have to pick like what's important to you. And each ecosystem has like different trade-offs, right? I see that Polkadot and Tanssi are great like for customization, right, through Substrate, the modularity that it offers, interoperability through XCM, and a high degree of security and decentralization. Since Polkadot, this is what I love about this ecosystem, is that it takes decentralization very seriously. But then there's trade-offs, right? Other ecosystems offer different things, right? So these application-specific rollups on mainnet, for example, they're great for throughput and kind of sub-second block times. But in order to kind of go for that throughput, teams have to compromise on decentralization. I mean, these sequencers are highly centralized right now on L2s. The degree of composability between L2s is not nearly as advanced as kind of IBC on Cosmos or XCM on Polkadot. And then the degree of customizability is not the same, right? So while there are like a lot of competitors in the space right now, I see that each offering has a very specific positioning in what it specializes in. And I'm a big fan of what we have to offer, right? Because it's very aligned with the values of what Web3 is supposed to represent, like a highly secure, fully decentralized and permissionless environment. And offering just a great experience for developers to be able to leverage these like cloud-like experiences, right? And I also think that the Appchain space in general, I really don't see kind of smart contract deployments and Appchains being mutually exclusive for developers, right? I think that many teams will opt to go to have like a smart contract deployment on things on ecosystems like Moonbeam or ETH Mainnet, Arbitrum, BNB, whatever the ecosystem might be. But as you have all these multi-chain deployments, you're going to have to pick a hub or a home base of operations for your protocols, right? So, and I think a lot of developers are attracted by the fact of having that hub be your own app chain, right? Because you drive more value to the protocol that way. Or it might be that certain components of the application live on smart contracts on different EVMs, but you might offload certain workloads of the application to an app chain on Tanssi, right? So I don't see these things as being mutually exclusive. And another thing that excites me about Tanssi is that really the fact that it lowers the barriers of entry so much, it opens like a new addressable market for these smart contract developers that they want to have their app chain, but previously they might have been restrained by the barriers of entry, right? Whereas now they can use Tanssi to maybe launch like an EVM environment of their own without having to deal with the infrastructure. So that's really another, and a lot of the teams that we're speaking to now are like smart contract based, but they are attracted by having their own app chain, right? And we're making it a lot easier for them to enter the market. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a rant there, but yeah, this is kind of how I'm seeing the space evolving. And another thing is like, I think right now that Web3 is like, in general, there's a lot of maximalism, right? Like, we always talk in terms of like Polkadot or Cosmos or Ethereum. I honestly think over time this is going to become irrelevant, right? Like users they're not going to care like which blockchain they're operating on as long as it's secure and a secure block space. So I think this narrative is going to shift more from like blockchains themselves to like the end user facing applications that are building on the blockchains, right? So I think everything focused on chains is going to become more back-end related, right? And the user's not even going to know what chains they're operating on. So yeah, this is kind of how I see things evolving over time.
Wow, that's really deep and informative. Thank you so a lot. We kind of know more about what is going on with this one, and also what change is gonna happen with this one in the upcoming time. Yeah, we can't wait to see how Tanssi gonna do next, how Polkadot gonna do next with these terms. And yeah, but Tanssi has made a lot of considerable contribution to this field. Yeah, and we know that in the upcoming time we're gonna have a lot of good news from Tanssi, about this one. Yeah. So for the last question, I think it's kind of relaxing compared to others. So if you have to say 3 words or 3 sentences, whatever, to express your pride and what you proud in Tanssi. So what are those, sir?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think offering a great developer experience is a responsibility that we feel is something that we feel like we have a responsibility towards to offer developers. So that's top of the list. Execution, I think, is also something that is extremely important. You know, you can have great ideas and great concepts and all these different things, great marketing, but if you don't have a great team that can execute, then you're not going to go anywhere. So I think this is something that I take to heart a lot, and just like staying humble as well. You know, keeping your feet on the ground and keep delivering valuable things. I think I would say those are kind of principles that I take to heart, and honestly, I really feel like a big sense of urgency um, to deliver Tanssi to the market as soon as possible, since yeah, I think it's necessary and it's very much needed in the app chain space right now. I mean, not even only within Polkadot, but across the entire Web3 space. You know, we're not really thinking that it's Polkadot specific. I really think that it's going to create an offering that's competitive across the entire industry, right? That is enabled by Polkadot, but yeah, I think those are kind of the things that excite me and that I take to heart.
Wow, I can say that's really lovely. It kind of give us like a flashback of what Tansi's been focusing on, and then to build, to keep growing and building and serving, and that's really amazing so far. Yeah. So thank you so a lot. We love those words. Yeah. So I think it's all about the questions today. We have been through a lot of great information about Tansi, about what Tanssi is doing, and also what are the next steps that we have to follow with Tanssi. Yeah, that's really impressive. Yeah. So before we say goodbye, sir, do you have any words left or announcement left that you want to say to our audience tonight?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure to have these sort of events and connecting with the community. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Happy to answer. And honestly, if anyone kind of feels like getting involved or they want to learn more, you can always reach out to me on Telegram. My username is the same as my Twitter handle. I'm always open to speak to people that are interested in learning more. If you have a project that you would like to experiment with, we'd be happy to engage with you. We're going to be launching the ambassador program soon. So that'll give a tangible opportunity for people to actually get engaged and participate in the growth of the project, which is great. And yeah, no, I mean, follow us on social to learn more about, to stay in touch about updates. And yeah, I appreciate the opportunity of coming on here and talking about Tanssi. And thanks as always to the community. Yeah.
Wow, the ambassador program. That's attractive, everyone. We gotta keep an eye on it. Yeah. And thank you so a lot again for all the great sharings, and also Tanssi for giving us a chance to be your bridge to the community today. And that's kind of a great pleasure for us, really. And also thank you all the listeners have joined us today. We hope that you just had relaxing time with us with a lot of good information that you won. And yeah, if you want to hear the recording again, just play it. Yeah, play the recording in our Twitter page. And also, if you have any further questions about Tanssi, do not hesitate to DM Polkadot Insider, and we're gonna have your questions connected to our speaker and get back the answers, yeah, to you as soon as possible. Yeah. So I think it's all about today, and I'm afraid that we have to say goodbye right now. So goodbye, everyone, and see you guys all again in our next AMA. Goodbye. Have a nice day, everyone.
Cool. Thanks. Have a good day. Bye.